Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, GITTEN DAF Lamed Aleph. We are holding at the Mishnah, which is 7 lines from the top. In the past Mishnayos, we discussed instances where we rely on a chazaka. We assume things are maintained the way they were, and that's how they are today. In this Mishnah as well, we will discuss another example of a chazaka application. Says the Mishnah, Hamaniach Peris, if a person sets aside produce, he puts aside some wheat, some barley, tevel that is, right? So it's right off the ground, has not yet been attended to in terms of teruma and maser separation. So this grain can now serve as truma and maser for other grain as well. So basically, he sets aside a store of grain, a reserve of wheat kernels, and is going to use that reserve, that supply, to supply him with truma and maser for other things. Hamafresh peris, hamaniach peris. He puts aside peris. Leois mafresh alehin, truma umasris. So he's going to be relying on these in order to fix up other tevel, which he wants to eat, at a different location. So he's now at a different place, and he finds some tevel. Instead of going and separating right here, he says, "Look, I have some, wheat sitting in my storeroom. I want part of that to serve as truma and maser for this tevel right here." Now it can work, provided the other stuff is still around. Is it around? Does he have to be concerned that perhaps it disappeared? It got lost? It was stolen? No, once again we apply the concept of chazaka. We assume things stayed the way they were. That wheat is still safe and sound and can serve as truma for this wheat right here. So again, hamaniach peros, he sets aside peros, lios mafresh alein, truma o masros, in order to separate truma and maser, relying on that tvua, or in a slightly different case, same concept, different example. Mois, he sets aside money. Lios mafresh alein maser sheni, which will address his maser sheni elsewhere. So he's now at a different location, and he has some maser sheni, which he'd like to be mechalel. He would like to take the kedusha of that maser sheni and transfer it onto the money that he has sitting in his drawer at home. Can he do that? Yes. Mafresh alein becheska shen kayamin. He could do the afrasha, relying on the fact that he has that money still sitting there. We assume it's still safe and sound. Now, what happens if he discovers it missing? Im avdu. One day he walks over to his drawer, opens it up, it's gone. No money. He goes to his storeroom to take a look at his reserve. It's missing. How long is it gone? He has no idea. Divrei Rabbi Elazar. So according to Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, Tana, it's a 24-hour concern. So let's say, for example, he put away the wheat on Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. Now it's Thursday, 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's gone. So he has to be concerned for the last 24 hours. That's it. Me'es la'es means from, this hour now to the same time, 24 hours later or before. In this case, it's 24 hours earlier. So any truma and maser, which he did until 24 hours ago, is okay, is safe, is secure. We assume that that wheat was still sitting there. Anything that transpired within the last 24 hours is null and void. We have to be concerned that perhaps the material was missing already, because it's gone now. So it's a reasonable, a time frame, a reasonable unit in time, 24-hour unit, which poses a real concern that in fact it was missing during that period. So again, if he set it aside Sunday morning, today's Thursday morning, it's gone. The concern only applies to the last 24 hours. But up until then, we say that the supply was still sitting there. We're going to see in the Gemara, the Chachamim disagree. They hold, no, you can never know when it went missing. We'll see in the Gemara. According to Rabbi Lezer, it's a limited concern, a 24-hour concern. Rabbi Yehuda, typically you can rely on the chazaka that your items are safe and sound, but when it comes to wine, which is delicate and sensitive, it can sour pretty easily. So 3 times a year you have to actually inspect your wine to make sure it's still there. It's still wine and has not yet soured. B'shleisha prokim, 3 times throughout the year, boitkin asayan, we check the wine. Number 1, bekidum, during the easterly wind, which is blowing shel motzei achag, motzei of the Yom Tov of Sukkos. So when you have this wind blowing at that point, it puts your wine in jeopardy, and you have to check the wine. Number 2, uboitzas smodar. Further into the season, towards spring, when the blossoms start, the vine starts shedding its blossoms, and you see the miniature grapes coming out. That's another time to check your wine supply that you have in your cellar. Ubishas knisas mayim b'boiser, and further down the line, when the boiser, the miniature grapes, start developing their liquid. Okay, so back to the beginning of the Mishnah. He puts aside some material to be used as reserve truma and maser for other tevel that he might encounter. We say, well, even if it went missing, you can be pretty confident that it was there until recently, but you have to be chayshish at least 24 hours. My meis leis. What does that mean? 24 hours from when? From what? Rabbi Yehuda Amar meis leis shel bedika. So you discovered it missing today. Backtrack 24 hours. That 24-hour period poses a concern. Rabbi Lezer ben Tignus Shum Lezer ben Yanai, he's more machmer. He says that meis leis means she'el hanocha. Just the opposite. You can only be confident. You can only rely on that supply for 24 hours from the time you set it aside. So in our case, he put it aside Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. For the next 24 hours, starting 9 o'clock till Monday, 9 o'clock, you can be sure that it was there. There's a chazaka, but past Monday morning, 9 o'clock, you never know. You can't rely on it. So he's very machmer. First shita was, you're okay with it until 24 hours ago. You discovered it missing now, 24 hours ago, that's when you start having the chashash, but up until then you're okay. Whereas the second shita says just the opposite. 24 hours means, on a positive note, you can only be positive, you can only rely on it for 24 hours from the time of placement. But past that, you don't know. Tanan. Okay, let's take a close look at the Lashon HaMishnah. Im avdu, if the supply went missing. Haray is a choshesh, so that generates a concern for a time period of me'es leis. Right? That's the Lashon HaMishnah. Let's analyze the Lashon based on these two approaches. So according to the second approach, which is machmer. According to the first approach, which is mekel. Now you can be okay with it. You can be sure it was there until 24 hours ago. So now it's the time of bedika. You inspect it, it's missing. Until 24 hours ago, you can be okay that it was there. You can be sure that it was still present. And the chashash only applies to 24 hours, starting from today, retroactive 24 hours. Shoppers. So the Lashon HaMishnah matches that description. It sort of corresponds to this way of learning. But the other approach, which holds that me'es leis is referring to that original point in time when you placed it, the hanoch, when you reserve the product, and you only get 24 hours of assuredness, and past that, you're in a state of suffix. So then, hi me'es leis. Why did the Mishnah say you're choshesh me'es leis, which indicates the concern is only limited to 24 hours? Ad me'es leis min boile. If anything, the Mishnah should say the chashash starts today time when you discovered it missing, and goes back, stretches back until, not until Sunday morning 9 o'clock when you put it down, but until Monday morning 9 o'clock, which is 24 hours past the point of Hanacha. It should be Ad Meis Leis. Kasha, we leave it as a Kasha. Divid Rabbi Lezer, who limits the concern to Meis Leis. Rabbi Lezer, so Rabbi Lezer the Amira, who is Rabbi Lezer ben Pedas, explained that, this shita is not unanimous. Chalukan alav Chaveirav al Rabbi Lezer. The other Chaveirim disagreed with Rabbi Lezer. They held that, you discovered it's missing, it's gone, that's it. You have to redo everything that you did until now. You can't be sure that it was even there for a minute. Past placement time. Right? That's not, where do we find this halacha? In a similar case of a mikveh which was discovered to be pasul. Mikveh she nimdat. V'nimtza chaser. So you have a mikveh which was, filled properly, but then later on it was inspected, it was nimdat, and it turned out to be missing the required amount of water. It's unfit for tefillah. Now this was used for a long time. What do we do? Kol tahares shnasu al gabav. Any truma, anything which was tar, which was handled based on a tefillah in this mikveh. So a person who was tamei and went to the mikveh and then touched all these things, they're all suspect now. For anything going back, ben rishus hayachid, whether it was in a private area, ben rishus ram, a public area, tmeyas is considered tamei because you've discovered the mikveh to be unfit for use. So clearly the Chachamim disagree with Rabbi Lezer. It's all about its current condition. If it's found to be unfit, it's found to be pasul, such as in our case, the periods that you've set aside is found to be missing, then there's no way of knowing how long it was there, how long it was fine, how long the mikveh was qualified for use, because you have sort of conflicting chazakas. You have the chazaka mi'ikara, the initial chazaka, which says, look, it was good at a certain point, let's assume that condition was maintained, but you have a conflicting chazaka. Look, its current situation doesn't reflect well. It's gone. It's missing water. The pairs. Therefore, the Chachamim say you go l'chumra, and you assume it was this way all along. Says the more pshita the chalukin. Okay, so it's pretty clear from this Mishnah that the other shitas disagree with Rabbi Lezer's limiting the chashash to 24 hours. What's Rabbi Lezer, the Amiras Chiddush? Of course, we see everybody disagrees with it. Now, the time perhaps I would say, Ma'alim Afreya, when the Mishnah says that we are Choshesh L'Mafreya by the mikveh, we go back and we have true concern that everything was tummy. Perhaps we do limit it to Me'es Leis. It's not open-ended. We treat it as though the mikveh was never good. No, perhaps it's only going to go back for 24 hours. That means the concern is only for anything that was involved with the mikveh in the last 24 hours. But up until then, should be okay. Kamashmon, that's Rabbi Lezer, the Amiras Chiddush. No. The correct way to learn the Mishnah is a mikveh which was discovered to be missing, its required amount of water, is deemed to be unfit, disqualified, starting from today all the way back until the point where you know for sure that the mikveh was fine. And likewise in our Mishnah, he was relying on certain peiros for the Tumah the Maser, now it's missing. Anything that was done depending on those peiros has to be redone. Rabbi Yehuda Begimel Prakim, wine must be inspected 3 times a year. Tana, we learned in the Bryce. When Rabbi Yehuda says Bekidim Shal Motzei Chag, during the easterly blowing wind, which takes place Motzei Chag HaSukkos, there's one more condition, Shal Tekufa, provided the new season has already entered. So we know the year splits into 4 seasons. In the Lashon of Chazal, it's Tekufas Teves, right? We have Tekufas Tammuz, and then Tekufas Tishrei, Tekufas Teves, etc. So sometimes Tkufas Tamos, the summer season, so to speak, can actually extend past Sukkos. So when we speak about a concern presented by the Ruach Mizrachis blowing at Matzoi Sukkos, which can spoil your wine, that is provided the new Tkufa has already been inaugurated. Tkufas Tishrei has already started. But if Tkufas Tammuz is still in effect, it can happen year by year, because the lunar and solar are not really lined up. So sometimes it can be a late year. And in that case, there's no concern with the easterly wind affecting the wine. So it's that combination of the Ruach with the time, with the season, all together. Tanya. Okay, in a similar vein, speaking about the seasons pertaining to crops. Tanya B'da'imeh, B'gimel Prakim, Merechnes Atfua. 3 times a year is optimal time for selling Tavua, selling grain. When is that? Lifnei Hazer, prior to the planting season. Ubeshas Hazer, while they're planting, just in case a farmer comes up short, so he goes and runs to get himself replenished. Ubefreis Pesach, and 15 days before Pesach, it's called Prois, because Prois is like half, Pras, right? Half the 30-day preparation period before Pesach. Perhaps it's for a purpose of baking matzahs. In any case, these are 3 designated points of grain sale. Likewise, there are 3 points of wine selling. Befreis Pesach, Befreis Atzeres, Befreis Chag, 15 days before Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Everybody's running to get their wine supply replenished for Yom Tov. What about oil? V'shemen, Matzeres Ve'elach, starting from Shavuos onward. So what's the point of discussing these details? Amarava v'temer papa, it has a very strong Choshe Mishpat effect. L'shutafen, for instance, you have partners. Can I sell when I want? Can I sell when the stocks are down, when the price is low? No. There are 3 distinct zmanim to sell your produce, in which case the shutaf can just go ahead and sell it on his own, independent of his partner. But otherwise, if he's just selling it randomly, his partner could object. Mekan ve'elach mai. What happens once you're past that 3rd point? You still have leftover produce from that season. Amarava kol yom pirki, of course. Every day is the proper time, meaning, of course, the shutaf can just sell it off, whatever, any surplus left behind. Okay, on the topic of the easterly wind, the Gemara now will embark on a discussion about various winds and their effects on nature. This is by Yoina Hanabi. He was sitting in Nineveh, and suddenly the sun is shining, and Hashem brings in a ruach kadim, an easterly wind charishas. My charishas, what does that mean? Amar avida b'shashim nasheves. It's such a strong, powerful wind. The eastern wind is oisa tlamim bayam. It riles up the sea and generates furrows throughout the sea. That's how strong and powerful this wind is. Amalei Rabbi Hachi. If that's the point of the pasuk, that charishas is lashon charisha, plowing. How does that fit into the context of the pasuk? The pasuk is trying to make a point. That Yoina was overcome by heat. He was struck by the strong sun, by his aleph, and he passed out. So, what does the powerful easterly wind have to do with that? Elamar Rabba. Rather, says Rabba, the point of the pasuk is like this. It's called Ruach Kadam Charishas because B'shashim Nasheves. It's just a strong and powerful wind which dries things up, has a drying effect. And it actually deactivates, it paralyzes the other winds coming from other directions. And it creates this heat, and that contributed to the condition that Yoina was experiencing and caused him to pass out. And correspondingly, the pasuk says, what does that mean? When are your clothing? Are your clothes hot? When is there heat in the world? When there is a strong wind which paralyzes, which quiets down the other winds. That's why it's called ruach charishus. like lashon of cherish, deaf, mute. So it quiets down the other winds. When the easterly wind comes and blows in full force, it quiets down, it shuts down the other winds coming in its face. So basically, the ruach mizrach is so powerful that it knocks out the other winds. Especially here, it's referring to the Daram wind, the southerly wind, which is also pretty powerful and is meant to have the opposite effect, meant to bring cold temperature, cold weather. So basically, the eastern wind is more powerful and knocks it all out. And that corresponds to our Mishnah, that when we have the Ruach Kadam, the Ruach coming from the east, it can have a detrimental effect, a warming effect on the wine, which causes it to spoil. Says the word, there was a story involving Rav Huna, Rav Chisda, Abu Yasvi, was sitting Chalif Azal Gniva, this fellow called Gniva, which we had back on Daf Zion. He's the one that taunted Mar Ukva. So Gniva was walking by. Chalif Azal Gniva Alayah. They noticed him. Amar Chalach Avrei, so one turned to the other. Rav Huna and Rav Chisda, so one turned to the other. Neikum Mikame, let's get up in front of him. Let's get up for him. As a show of honor. The Bar Uryanu, he's a Talmud Chacham. Amar Le'idach. The other one responds, no way, Mikame Palga. Palga is a person who generates discord and machlekes. Neikum, we're going to get up for a person like that. He may be a Talmud Chacham, but his midas are lacking. He's contentious, he makes machlekes. Adahachi. Okay, as this was happening, Asiyul Gabayos, he approached them. Amrlu, he asked them, so what are you discussing? Amrlu, the Baruchais were discussing the topic of wind. Amrlu, he says, oh, on that topic, I have something interesting for you. Hachi Amarav, Chanabarav, Amarav, Dal Ruchais. Menashes Bechol Yom. Every day you have an alternation. 4 winds. Every 6 hours a different wind, wind from a different direction takes precedence, takes over. But each wind is accompanied a bit by the northerly wind as well, which tempers it. Shalmole Kain, because otherwise the world couldn't stand that filu sha'achas in for a moment. Ruach Doimis. And you know the suddenly wind Kashem Mikulan is the most powerful of all in potential. Rashi says it creates storming and tzina and cold. Vilmale ben nates, if not for ben nates, a malach which appears like a bird called the nates. Ma'amida, if not for him holding up that powerful, suddenly stormy wind, machraves kolelim kulei miponeh would destroy the whole world. Shenema, as the pasuk says. Hame binoscha ya'aver eitz. Nates is that bird who spreads out his aver, his wings. Yifres knaf of Teman, he blocks the wind coming from Teman from the south. So it seems that the southerly wind has potential to wreak havoc and storm in terms of its cooling effect and stormy effect, whereas the easterly wind has a more drying effect and increase in temperature type of effect. Rava v'Rav Nachmar Yitzchak, Havu Yasvi, they two were sitting. Havu Chalaf Azal, who was passing by? Rav Nachmar Yaakov. How was he passing by? The Yosef, he was sitting with Goharka that have in a gold wagon, chariot. Uparis alei sarbala, and over him was spread a sarbala, curtain, the karti, some type of bluish coat. So they couldn't see who it was, who the passenger was. Rava figured he was an important man, Azal Gabay, so he went over to him. Rav Nachmar Yitzchak Azal Gabay, Rav did not go over to him. Amar, he says, look, I don't need that person. Maybe the passenger or the passengers hail from the head of the community, the Reish Galusa. So I'm not beholden to them. I don't need their favors. Rava, okay, he needs them. Tzarachlu, he needs them. So he went over there to greet them. I'm son-in-law in the community leader's home, and I don't need their favors. But when he noticed who it was, when he noticed that it was the Rav Nachmar Yaakov Hava, a great man, was sitting there, Azal Gabay, so he went over to him as well. And what did he see? He saw that Rav Nachmar Yaakov was hot. Goli, he revealed the dara his arm, he basically rolled up his sleeves. Amar, he said, Shad Yonoshev, looks like a demon, like a shade is blowing. It was the easterly wind blowing, which has that warming, drying effect. Amar Rava, says Rava, Hachi Amar Rav. Rav said that wind is in fact so detrimental, Isha Apelas boy, can cause an Isha to miscarry her child. Shmuel says, Afilu margola shebayam markeves, but even a pearl at sea can dry up from this wind. Even the husband's seed in the innards of a woman will spoil from this wind. All three Amoraim based their concept on the same pasuk. It's a pasuk in Hosea. Kihu bein achim yafri yovei kadim. So that's the easterly wind. Kadim is forefront, the front, the mizrach, right? So the easterly wind comes forth, Ruach Hashem, midbar oila, vayevesh mekayroi. So we learn from here like this: yevesh mekayroi, that's zumekayroi shel isha, that's the womb of a woman which gets affected by this wind and can cause miscarriage. Vayechav mayonai, destroying the source, the mayon of the shechva zera, the shechva zera shemei isha, it can spoil as well. Hu yeshasa oiser kol chemda, what is that? Zumagola shebayam, it destroys the treasures at sea. Amar Rabba, so Rabba said, Adi, this surahu was such a nice pshat in the pasuk. It comes from the residents of Surah. Rashi says they were prone to being medayik, psukim, and learning them properly. So he was impressed with the drasha. But we still have a question. What about the first part of the drasha, which was not the first part of the pasuk, which was not yet explained? Mai, what does it mean? Kihu bein achem yafri. Amar Rava, it means like this. Afilu shufsa b'kofina demora rafya. What is bein achim yafri? Things which are together, clasped together, like the shufsa, like the handle, b'kofsa, on the whole of the b'kofina demora of the shovel. Basically, a shovel handle will dry up and shrivel up, and rafya and become loose. Rabbi Yosef Amar afilu sichsa b'dafna rafya, even a nail in the wall shrivels up and gets loose. Even the reed inside your reed basket dries up and it all gets loose. All as a result of the ruach mizrachis, which has that drying, warming effect. Hadron lach kolagate. So back to the Mishnah once again. A person sets aside some payers to rely on them for truma and maser, or money for the maser sheni. He can keep on going, assuming they're there. But if he discovers them missing, that's a question. According to Blazer, that poses a 24-hour concern. We have two ways to explain 24 hours, starting from today retroactively, or starting from the point of Hanocha, going forward, only 24 hours, two ways to learn the Gemara. But the Chaver of disagreed with Rabbi Blazer. They say, whatever you find today, that's what it was all along, and you have to be choshesh and redo everything. Just as by the mikveh, everything is considered tamei because of the mikveh discovered to be chaser. Harida tells us 3 times a year you check your wine. We discussed the points of sale of produce throughout the year and the prevalence of the various winds and their respective functions. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.